If you love manga or anime or cosplay, you might want to read about the culture that spawned them. So today I'd like to introduce you to 5 books about Japan or Japanese American culture. The first book I will present today is Half-World by Hiromi Goto. Melanie Tabaki isn't pretty. She isn't rich. She isn't slender. She isn't smart, and she isn't popular. In fact, she's a victim of bullying by her classmates who call her retarded and fat girl. Her only friends seem to be the ever-present crows and the local grocery store owner, Mrs. Way. One day, a crow drops a fortune cookie at her feet. Opening it, Melanie reads a surprising message. It says, "Go home." Melanie lives with her invalid, impoverished mother, but when she arrives home, her mom is gone. Knowing that her mother never leaves the house, Melanie panics. She sees a photo of her parents taken when her mother was pregnant with her. Turning it over, she learns that her parents had been convicted of a crime in some place called Half-World, just for being pregnant. Just then, the phone rings and Melanie learns from a Mr. Glueskin that her mother has returned to Half-World to serve out her sentence. Frightened, she hangs up, and then realizes that the phone service was turned off months ago because her mother couldn't afford the bill. In this fantastical tale, there are 3 realms: the realm of flesh, the realm of spirit, and the half-world. Hundreds of years ago, the 3 realms were interconnected. When someone died, he temporarily passed through half-world, ascended to the realm of spirit, and was eventually reborn into the realm of flesh. But now that cycle is disrupted, and souls are caught in half-world forever, forever to relive the trauma of the end of their lives, their horrible existence twisting them into hideous monsters. With the help of Jade Rat and a magic 8-ball fortune-telling toy, Melanie summons the courage to enter half-world in hopes of saving her mother. There she is faced with nightmarish half-humans and barbarianism. She learns that all we are responsible for in life and in half-world are the choices we make, and those choices can make all the difference in the world. Author Hiromi Goto was born in Japan but raised in Canada. She has won awards for her fiction. Illustrator Jillian Tamaki's black and white drawings lend a gloomy pathos to Melanie's story. This book will appeal to lovers of dark fantasy and legend. Our second book is Weed Flower by Cynthia Kadohata. Half-World was a fantasy based on Japanese legend. With Weed Flower, we move to realism and historical fiction. Sumiko is growing up in California in the 1940s. She lives with her little brother, her aunt and uncle, and her cousins on a flower farm. She loves the flowers they grow and hopes to go to college, study business, and own a flower store when she's an adult. She especially loves the so-called stock flowers, the ones that don't need special nurturing because they grow like weeds. In Japanese they are called kusabana. But Sumiko and most of her family were born in America. Only her grandfather and her uncle were born in Japan. They are Issei, first generation to leave Japan. Sumiko first learns the crush of racism when a white classmate invites her to a birthday party, but the white girl's mother won't let Sumiko join the other girls in her house. Sumiko goes home in shame, but lies to her aunt and tells her that she had a wonderful time at the party. And then, Japan bombs Pearl Harbor, and everything changes. Her grandfather and uncle are arrested just for being born in Japan, and they, like many of their neighbors, are taken away. And not long after, the rest of the family is forced to abandon their home and farm and nearly all their possessions and move to an internment camp in Poston, Arizona. At the last moment before being bussed away, Sumiko dashes into a workshed where her uncle had experimented trying to improve the stock. She grabs a packet of flower seeds Uncle has named for her. In the relocation camp, there is a sense of helplessness and anger. The heat is oppressive, the dust is everywhere, and there's nothing to do. But the Japanese families interred there are used to working hard, and soon there are gardens and knitting clubs and basketball teams. Although the residents know that many of their white neighbors fear and hate them, they don't realize there is another group filled with resentment over their presence there. The Poston internment camp is on a Native American reservation, and the Indians have even less than the ethnic Japanese. Did you know that Native Americans didn't even have the right to vote until after World War II? Will Sumiko ever achieve her dream of owning a flower shop? Will she ever be reunited with her beloved grandfather? Will the Native Americans and the Japanese ever be able to see past the stereotypes they have of each other? Can Sumiko be friends with Frank, a native boy? A point of interest. Although Sumiko is fictional, author Cynthia Kadohata's father was interned in the Poston camp, a sad chapter in our nation's history. Our third book is Now in Zen by Linda Gerber. In Now in Zen, Nori Tanaka is a high school student from Ohio who jumps at the chance to spend a summer semester with an international program in Japan. Despite the fact that Japan is her ancestral homeland, Nori would go just about anywhere to get away from her feuding parents. Bored, cynical, and feeling superior, Nori makes fun of her new roommate, Amberly. She thinks the girl is just too giggly for words, and she's particularly irritated when Amberly assumes that visiting Japan is a homecoming for Nori. Nori sets her straight. Her Japanese family name, Tanaka, does not make her Japanese any more than Amberly's family name makes her English. And then there's a local boy, Atsushi, who saved her when she was lost in the Tokyo subway system and now won't leave her alone. Another irritant is Michiko, also local, who takes every opportunity to make snide remarks about gaijin, gaijin being foreigners. Some people might think Nori is Japanese, but Michiko tells her friends that Nori is just a stupid gaijin. There is one good thing about this trip: gorgeous, muscular, blonde Eric, who's from Germany. Eric is fixated on a stereotype of Asian girls as sensual butterflies, so Nori pretends to be one in order to attract him. After all, she keeps being mistaken for a local, so it's not a big stretch. Except that she isn't local, she doesn't speak Japanese, she hates fish, she isn't a geisha, and she knows she's living a lie. What's worse, she uses Atsushi to make her act more convincing. Now in Zen takes the reader to many of the most well-known sites in Japan. Some of the places Nori and her classmates visit are the famous Tsukichi Fish Market, Mount Fuji, the Rowanji Temple, and to a sumo stable. The interested reader will learn a great deal about Japanese culture and a few words of the language too. Now in Zen is part of a series called Students Across the Seven Seas, with each book in the series written by a different author, but each one featuring an American teenage girl who takes part in a study abroad program. So, if you like Now in Zen and learning about Japan, you might try one of the other books in the series. For example, Heart and Salsa takes Kat to Mexico, and Spain or Shine brings Elena to Spain. The fourth book is Samurai Shortstop by Alan Gratz. It's 1890, and Emperor Meiji of Japan wants to modernize his country. He has decreed that there will no longer be any samurai. Everyone, except the royal family of course, will be commoners. But some samurai refuse to give up the two swords that are a mark of their rank and the essence of a samurai's soul. Toyo Shimada's beloved uncle is one of these. When he refuses to give up his swords, the emperor decrees he must die. On the day after he assists at his uncle's seppuku, or ritual suicide, Toyo starts high school at a prestigious academy in Tokyo, nicknamed Ichiko. Within the high brick walls surrounding Ichiko, he is expected to forget his family, forget girls, forget the outside world, forget modernization, but never forget the honor of his new school. In fact, when asked who they are, students are expected to answer, "I am a son of Ichiko." However, the instructors ignore the cruelties practiced by the older students against the younger ones, and Toyo and his friends live in fear of the nightly storms, where the seniors run wild through the dormitories and beat up the first-year students. At odds with his traditionalist, emotionally distant father, and also with the precepts of Ichiko, Toyo likes the new Japan. He admires the powerful locomotives and the useful light bulbs and other Western ideas. Most of all, he loves that best of all Western imports, baseball. His life at school revolves around two activities, the baseball team and being trained in Bushido, the arts of a warrior. Sword training makes him a better baseball player, But as he learns more about his society and the samurai way, he is confused and tries to figure out where honor truly lies. Ichiko was a real school and its baseball team was unsurpassed. If you like books about baseball, author Alan Gratz has written 2 other novels you might like, The Brooklyn Nine and Fantasy Baseball. Lastly, Tomo, edited by Holly Thompson. As much as 9/11 will live forever in American hearts as a day of unspeakable tragedy, 3/11 has the same resonance for Japanese. That was the day in 2011 when the great Tohoku earthquake and tsunami hit northern Japan. Dozens of towns were wiped off the face of the earth and thousands of people were killed. Tomo means friend in Japanese. The final book I will present is called Tomo. It is a collection of short stories for teenagers by authors who feel a connection to Japan because they live there or through ethnic heritage or simply because they love the culture. The book was conceived as a way to connect young people across the globe, and all proceeds go to helping out teenage survivors of the disaster. Tomo is divided into 7 sections by theme. Some of the works were written in English and some were written in Japanese and translated. The first section is called Shocks and Tremors. It contains 4 short stories and 1 manga, all of which focus on experiencing the earthquake. The second section is titled Friends and Enemies. If you like Samurai Shortstop and other baseball stories, you are sure to like Graham Salisbury's Bad Day for Baseball. Also in this section is Half a Heart, a story about Pearl Harbor told in verse. The third section, Ghosts and Spirits, opens with a story by Alan Gratz, the author of Samurai Shortstop. It's called The Ghost Who Came to Breakfast. The ghost girl is everything Mayumi is not, and her parents like the ghost. In staring at the haiku, some high school students have to decode clues found in haiku poems in order to solve the mystery of the calligraphy room. The fourth section is called Powers and Feats. My favorite story in this section is about a toaster that predicts how a person will die by displaying a significant kanji, a Chinese character, on the toasted bread. The fifth section is called Talents and Curses. I like the story about a dragon and a poet and a flaming red pearl. Better yet was a story about a teenage girl's chance to become a celebrity singing sensation, if only she can convince her parents to let her try. The sixth section is Insiders and Outsiders. In this section there is a good anti-bullying story called The Zodiac Tree. Izumi escapes her tormentors by climbing a tree and spying on a young man who sweeps the monastery steps each day. In the last section, Families and Connections, there's a story about some teenage siblings living in Japan with their Japanese father and American mother. Their parents are divorcing, and they wonder, what would it be like to live in America? There are many Japanese words used in this collection, but never fear, there's a glossary at the end to help you understand the stories.